Hi, Grandma Abuela here. I'm out here in my backyard enjoying the beautiful fall sunshine. It's still good weather here. I can't believe how nice it is. You're going to hear the sound of lawnmowers, cars going past, maybe my dog's barking in the background. I don't know. I realize it's maybe not the best environment to be able to film a video because of the background noise, but I just want to be out here and enjoy the sunshine. So my topic today is about how we talk to small children about those tough subjects like sex and the differences between boys and girls and those kind of embarrassing topics that we don't know how to approach. First of all, I always believed that it was really important that we be totally open and honest with our kids, that if they ask us a question, that we explain it to them, that we use proper terminology, and that we don't sugarcoat it. Like if they ask, where do babies come from, you don't want to say, oh, well, we find babies out in the garden, or the stork delivers babies, because that's not true. We need to explain to them in terms that they can understand where babies come from. At the same point in time, that does not mean that we need to go over their heads and tell them more than they are capable of understanding. It kind of reminds me of a story that I heard once about this guy that was a preacher, and he showed up to the congregation to preach, and the entire chapel was completely empty, and there was just one old farmer sitting there in the front pew. And the preacher, he looked around, and finally went and he talked to the farmer, and he said, well, what do I do? You're the only person that's here, and I have the sermon prepared. What do I do? And the farmer said, well, seems to me that if I had a load of hay and only one cow, I believe I'd give the cow some hay. And the preacher's like, okay. So the preacher goes up to the pulpit, and he, starts talking and, getting really into it. And he's about halfway through his sermon, and he glances down, and there in that front bench is the old farmer, and the farmer is sound asleep. I mean, he is snoring. So the preacher goes down and, shakes the farmer, grabs his shoulder, shakes him awake, and says, hey, you're asleep during my sermon. And the farmer says, well, seems to me like if I had a load of hay and only one cow, I don't believe I'd give that cow the whole load. And that's just kind of a cute story, but it always makes me think, when small children ask us questions, that doesn't mean we need to tell them every single detail. They are not capable of understanding every detail, and I can't really tell you how much detail you should give these children because I don't know your child. I only know how much detail I was able to give each one of my kids. Some of my kids matured faster than others. Some of them, I was able to give them quite a bit of detail at a very young age. Others of them, they were older before they found out. Case in point, I had one daughter who didn't find out that there wasn't a Santa Claus until she was in high school. And the way she found that out was her older brother had graduated. He'd always been the one to help me set out the Christmas presents. And I said to her, hey, would you like to help me set out the Christmas presents? My brother no longer lived with us. He was off on a mission for our church. And I said to her, do you want to help me set out the Christmas presents tonight? This was on Christmas Eve. And she goes, and she just got this most stricken look on her face. And I said, or never mind, I will ask your younger brother. And that's how she found out that there really wasn't a Santa Claus. She'd suspected, but she didn't know for sure. I realized that she was really, really super innocent, but she wanted to believe in Santa Claus, so she did. And hey, I still believe in Santa Claus too. He brings me great presents every year. I can't believe what great taste he has. But now I'm getting off track. Let's talk about kids. Your kids are going to ask you those difficult questions. They're going to come up and they're going to say to you, Mommy, Daddy, where do babies come from? Mommy, Daddy, how do you make babies? Aunt Sophie has a baby in her belly. How did that baby get there? Aunt Sophie had a baby in her belly. How did that baby get out? Mommy, Daddy, I was at school today and someone used the word sex. What does that mean? Can you explain it to me? These are all hard questions, and you need to be prepared to answer those. But again, keep in mind, you don't want to say more than that kid is ready to hear. And I kind of like to err on the side of caution. Just say just a little bit and let the kid direct the conversation, and if they seem satisfied with just my little bit of information, then I'm good and I leave it at that. But if they ask more questions, then I tell them more and more depending on how many questions they ask. Now, I have kind of a funny story that illustrates this. When my second son was almost 4 years old, my daughter was born, and I never tried to keep things a secret about, like, she's a girl, he's a boy, any of that. I was very open about changing her diaper and bathing him. Oh, see, now you can hear my dog barking in the background. I don't know what he's barking at, but he likes to bark. So anyways, I would have him help me, bring me wet wipes, diapers. I'd have him help me, like, hold the washcloth or the shampoo when I was giving her baths. So he was very much aware of the differences of their anatomy, I think. Well, one day, he came to me and he said to me, "Mommy, how do you know what to name the baby when it comes?" And I said, "Well, I wait till the baby gets here and see what the baby looks like, and then your dad and I start talking about names that we like." And he said, No, that's not what I mean. Mommy, what I mean is, how do you know whether to give the baby a boy's name or a girl's name? And I said, "Oh, well, see, what I do is I wait till the baby gets here." We didn't get ultrasounds back then to find out what the child was. We like to be surprised. I said, "We wait till the baby gets here and we see if the baby's a boy or a girl, and then we choose a name." And he said, "No!" And he was really getting frustrated with me by now. "That's not what I mean," he said. "I mean, how can you tell if the baby's a boy or a girl?" And I'm thinking, oh, really? You're going to ask me this? You couldn't just figure this out when I change her diaper, that she's different than you? Really? You have to ask me this? You couldn't go ask your dad and let him have this conversation? But, like I said, I always had this policy that I'm going to be open and honest with my kids. So I take a deep breath. I'm ready to go. And I'm like, I'm ready to tell him. I'm ready to explain the difference. And I said, "Well, it's like this." And he said, "Wait, stop. Don't tell me. I figured it out." And I said, "You did?" And he said, "Yes. Girls have long hair and boys have short hair." And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay." And he went off and he was happy. And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that, kid. You're only 3.5, so we'll go with that for now." Later on, of course, he did figure out the difference. We had that conversation, but at that point, that was all the information that he needed in his life was, girls have long hair, boys have short hair. So that's just kind of a little illustration that you don't want to go more than the kid needs, but you do want to answer those questions when the questions come up. And let's face it, sometimes these questions and these conversations make for great stories to tell later on. I've told that story at family reunions, to friends, and now on YouTube videos. So, raising kids, it's great. Sometimes the conversations are uncomfortable, but they can also be a lot of fun.